So another weekend and another weekend without Formula One, but we were graced this weekend for a virtual Bahrain Grand Prix, which was very entertaining to say the least. I'm joined today by multimedia journalist Ruby Price
Hello.
and engineering student Owain Medford.
Hello.
This podcast is powered by the F1 Chronicle. Make sure to check out f1chronicle.com for news, reviews, and all things F1. So, before we do get into the virtual race, of course, a statement came out today from Chase Carey saying that he's still wanting 15 to 18 races this season over the summer break, well, what was the summer break, and also to extend over past November. So start with you, Ruby. So with this statement, are you confident that we will still get 15 to 18 races done?
I'm not so sure. I think it's sort of like wishful thinking of, we want this to happen, but I keep seeing events even as far as like June and July being cancelled, not specifically sporting events, but large gathering events. If we do get this amount of races, I imagine it will be behind closed doors, and there will still probably be a lot of teams very hesitant to actually engage in them.
True. Like, we were all very confident that Baku could be the first race of the season, but Owain, they've also postponed their race, and that was probably going to be one that won't be redone. So when do you see the season realistically picking up again?
I don't know, actually. I'm assuming post-Baku, which means I can't remember the calendar off the top of my head, but we really are getting into sort of the back end of the season. It might be worth just, say, calling the first 15 races, the first 10 races, and just essentially picking 5 good ones that you want to do from there, which I think, because it's Formula One, will be the ones that make the most money. So it'll probably be Monaco and things like that. And they'll be sort of interleaved where they can be in the summer break. Or it might go before and after the summer break. I don't really know. I'm glad I'm not making that decision.
So, Rees, we're just talking about, with this new statement coming on from Chase Carey, 15 to 18 races he still anticipates, with, Azerbaijan being cancelled.
Yeah.
So Owain was saying he'd pick and choose 5 races, but it's just not quite that simple with the amount of street circuits in there. So which races do you think will actually be able to be rerun?
I think the more you think about it, it becomes almost an impossible question to answer, because you're not just looking at the calendar and where each race lies within the year, but how each country is going to be able to cope with the coronavirus and everything. I think they need 8 races for it to officially be a world championship, but even that could change. I think Jolyon Palmer made a good point when he said, because one of the big problems with this whole situation, which keeps changing all the time, is that the problem of international travel and getting teams into each country and out and everything. And he made the point that the British Grand Prix could be one to go ahead just because there's so many teams in the UK. You've got the summer break, but because everything's so up in the air, it's almost impossible to see when sport's going to be able to carry on, not just Formula One, but football and everything. So it's really difficult to judge when it's going to start and if it's going to start as well.
Yeah, it's very strange times that we're living in, and whether or not races are going to go ahead is still completely up in the air. And I do sort of sympathise with the people who have to deal with all this, because, God, it would be an absolute headache if I was to try and sort out the mess, which is the sort of this year's F1 calendar. But let's sort of go away from the doom and gloom and let's actually see the stuff that actually happened this weekend. We were blessed with the Bahrain Virtual Grand Prix. Some big names driving. We had Lando Norris, Nico Hulkenberg, and Esteban Gutierrez and Stoffel Van Dorn, and then other people like Chris Hoy was racing and Ian Poulter, the golfer. So Ruby, going into this sort of race, how much do you think of an impact this is going to have for just keeping the F1 fans happy?
Well, they're providing some form of content, and they're using the big names like current Formula One drivers, Lando Norris, Nicholas Latifi. There are probably others. They're using those to keep people sort of like, oh, okay, F1 is still sort of happening, and they're planning them around the cancelled events. So there's one happening, I think, in 2 weeks. I'm not sure which race that would be, but they're just trying to basically keep some sort of momentum, because there should be a season happening right now and there isn't, so it just keeps things ticking along, really.
We've had sort of other races like the not Australian Grand Prix, the not Bahrain Grand Prix. So Owain, what were your expectations for F1 sort of running their own one rather than an esports company?
I don't know, actually, because they were in partnership, so it was actually fairly slick. And so, I think actually they put on quite a good show. They had Formula 2 commentators. I can't remember the name of them, unfortunately, because I didn't read the card. They had Matthew Gallagher from WTF1, and they had a full presenting team on there, probably a little bit closer than they should have done, but it was a fairly slick operation. They did make mention multiple times in that broadcast, obviously as a beta thing, and there were quite a lot of technical difficulties, which led to the race being sort of moved from 50% down to 25%, which is a bit disappointing. But to be honest, I was glad to have any kind of racing content to watch on a Sunday evening. So that was actually really, I'm glad that Formula One has actually sort of taken the initiative on itself and provided content for its fans. And I'm glad sort of people like Sky Sports and things like that have actually broadcast it, not on their main channels. So it's hopefully getting more people into esports, which is good to see.
Yeah, you sort of bring up a good point with the esports, like with the sort of the older generation of Formula One fans. Like, Rees, do you think they will start getting into it, especially when there's people from outside Formula One? Like, I don't know, some people, sort of older generation of Formula One fans might go, oh my God, Ian Poulter or Chris Hoy's racing, I might actually tune in for this.
Yeah, well, I was quite surprised because I caught my dad watching quite a bit of it. And yeah, I think esports is just coming out of its infancy a little bit, and it's gaining the recognition that I think it deserves. And I agree with Owain, it was a really slick operation. And not only that, though, but it was laid back in a good way. With the technical issue, with the issues I think Lando Norris was having, the way the presenting team were filling time, I didn't realise they were having technical problems until like 10, 15 minutes in. But the one, you see these grids now during this coronavirus situation, and there's so many like real world drivers. It's quite surreal when you see like Nico Hülkenberg, Esteban Gutierrez, and then in the race, the one a few weeks ago at the Nürburgring, and you've got IndyCar, Formula E. It's really interesting, and I think it's just quite lucky that motorsport in general it translates from the sim to the real world. Like, you can be good on FIFA, but you're not going to be able to score any penalties or anything. Yeah, and it was just a really fun event. I was really impressed by it. I mean, they had a few teething problems and stuff, but that's to be expected. I'm really looking forward to the next one.
So am I. Not quite sure what they're going to do with the Vietnam Grand Prix, because the F1 2019 game doesn't actually have Vietnam. And maybe if they race it on like a set of course from one that someone's made, maybe they might be able to get it done. But now let's sort of get onto the racing. A chaotic start, I think is a way to describe. You had Hulkenberg in the wall, and then you had Johnny Herbert taking a surprise lead. Ruby, how shocked were you to see Johnny Herbert going into turn 3 in the lead of this race?
I mean, to be honest, I was expecting Johnny Herbert mostly to sort of stay around like the sort of Williams area on track. Just the thought of, Johnny Herbert sat behind a like PC screen pretending to drive. It's just sort of pretty hilarious, really. But, like, just watching that screen and seeing, what was he driving? An Alpha? Yeah, just seeing an Alpha cutting across, turns 1 and 2 at Bahrain, and then just seeing Johnny Herbert got a 10-second time penalty for cutting the corner. Oh, but he's also in first. Cool. That's what's going on there?
It was a controversial penalty, to say the least. Owain, do you think it was fair that he got the 10 place for a penalty? Another time penalty?
I mean, even taking out all of my bias. Yeah, no, it's definitely a fair penalty. Obviously, there's no room for error with the Formula One game. So it's a computer deciding yes or no. Glad we don't have issues with taking it to the stewards or anything like that, or investigating after the race. It's it's one and done. As we saw drivers pushing corner cutting to an absolute limit, but yeah, obviously it's a deserved penalty. He's cut a huge amount of the corner.
Yeah, it was pretty. But were you surprised with how quick the decision came in? So we're not used to this sort of thing in Formula One. Instant penalty.
I think we're going to miss it actually afterwards. We're going to just like, I didn't give him a penalty immediately. Thank God for that.
No more waiting 3 hours after a race for an actual classification.
Oh, don't forget the appeals process.
3 weeks after a race.
Just there in the moment.
Karun Chandok's analysis to try and get it overturned.
Yeah. Yeah. So Rees, you also had Nico Hulkenberg sort of crash out. But we did have Jimmy Broadbent and Lando Norris starting from the back due to the technical difficulties that they were having connecting to the game. They both got through very, very cleanly. And they had then a brilliant race. It's sort of like, amongst all the chaos, at least there was some, genuine, wow.
Yeah. Lando Norris's AI did really well up until the point he rejoined. I was really impressed by, not only in this race, but it was like the first esports race in the Nürburgring with Jimmy Broadbent. He was able to hold off Antonio Felix da Costa, and then he was having a scrap with Lando Norris on that final lap. I really wasn't expecting to see that. Yeah, but it's nice to see that it's not just real drivers, it's sim drivers and some... I don't think all the celebrities work that they put in them, but I think he's got such a big following that it was really nice to see him involved in the race and everything.
Yeah, you said celebrity. One that I completely forgot about is Liam Payne was driving.
Yeah.
Was he driving though?
Well, he was at the back regardless in that
I feel sorry for him. He put in a 2-minute qualifying lap and then went off and retired from the session.
Yeah, it was definitely a race of up and downs for some people. Liam Payne definitely being one of those poor unfortunates who didn't.
There was one direction he was heading in.
There we go.
Hey. I think I had to bring it up. Well, I don't know. It was amazing because Lando Norris being controlled by AI because of the technical difficulties, which led to the immortal line, Lando Norris is doing supremely well being controlled by AI before having to correct themselves. But it was amazing.
Yeah, it was just a weird start. One driver that really stood out to me in the other McLaren was Nick Hamilton, currently a touring car driver. He got right at the top of the field and he was sort of battling, and I think he was doing an absolutely great job. Was there any sort of standout drivers for you, Ruby, that you sort of noticed throughout the race?
I think it goes without saying that, Jimmy Broadbent did a fantastic job, starting from the back. And perfect collision with Lando Norris to, just take the point away from him. I'd say the majority of drivers just sort of were standout, really.
Owain, any sort of other standout drivers for you?
Was it Ian Poulter, the golfer?
Yes.
Yeah. we put it up, but just when they showed his golf cam, and it was just two Ferraris parked in the background. You know, and not common or garden Ferraris, like proper limited run where they call you to buy it Ferraris. Like that, I like the flex from that. But to be a bit more serious, I'm actually surprised, you know, pleasantly, that the Formula One drivers didn't just romp away with it. You know, they spend a lot of time in the simulator. So Stoffel Van Dorn and Esteban Gutierrez, who both do simulator work for proper Formula One teams, you know, you'd expect them maybe to have skills that would just allow them to romp away from even the esports drivers who spend a lot of time in the game. But it was nice to see actually the Formula One drivers sort of sitting around in sort of 14th to 8th, you know, really having to struggle against esports drivers, personalities, you know, Jimmy Broadbent at the bottom of his garden in his mum's shed sort of thing. You know, it was actually really nice to see how it doesn't just translate perfectly, but it does translate pretty well.
Yeah, it is crazy how sort of it does translate well, but there's some people that just play it too much, and they get very good. Rees is a question for you. Any sort of standout drivers?
One driver that really stood out to me was Nico Hülkenberg. He seemed to be having a fight with, I can't remember his name. I think he was in the Ferrari. I'm not sure if he's part of the Ferrari Driver Academy. But they were having a scrap like nearly every lap. One would get in front and then they'd repass each other and everything. And Jimmy Broadbent, of course. I think what most impressed me about it was I think he's quite new to sim racing. And this isn't like R Factor or iRacing. I think it's more, even though there's simulation aspects to it, it is more towards the gaming side of things. So to be that quick was really impressive.
Yeah, it's weird how you can be a good sort of sim driver on one game and it just really does not translate onto others. And you know, Jimmy Broadbent is definitely someone who doesn't play a lot of the F1 games, and he still did an absolutely fantastic job. And his battle with Lando, you say scrap, absolutely punting Lando into the wall.
It's called a pit maneuver, okay?
Who do you think was at fault there? To me, it looked like Lando. I know we're talking about a virtual race here, but
yeah, it was a strange one.
Racing. We've only got two camera angles.
I think it's just a racing incident. Nothing to be done.
Who pays the damage bill? That's what I want to know.
Codemasters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think Hülkenberg, they asked him in the commentary team asked him what assist he was running. And I think he was only running like moderate traction control. So fair play to him for that.
I'm surprised they're all running traction control, to be honest.
Well, I know in the sort of the not Oz and the not bar, they do automatic ERS just to sort of take that factor out and just keep it a little more even, because the esport drivers are going to know how to completely use that ERS system. Well, even like the likes of like Lando Norris probably doesn't know, even though he's probably the master of it on his, in the actual McLaren, but on the game it's going to be entirely different. I don't think there's a little switch where you just choose between 1 and 5 with your ERS deployment. So the race, the winner of the race was, I don't want to butcher this, but Guan Yu Zhou, who is, I think he's a Renault Academy F2 driver. He won the race and did a brilliant job. Then it was Stoffel Van Dorn in the Mercedes, Philip Eng in the Red Bull. Do any of you know who Philip Eng is? Because I think he's just I have no idea.
I'll be honest, some of the names are lost on me, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Jimmy Broadbent in 4th, Lando Norris 5th. Nicholas Latifi did a great job in 6th in that Williams, probably the only top 10 that Williams is going to get this year. Then it was Lucas Salvador in the AlphaTauri, Red Eye in the Haas, Dino Beganovic, I think that's the Ferrari guy in the Ferrari. And then even though Hülkenberg did cross the line in 10th, accumulation of penalties meant that Esteban Gutierrez got classified as 10th, which is not bad for Mercedes to get 2 cars in the top 10, especially when they're both their test drivers. But yeah, it was truly was a great race, and there's so much opportunity for more people to join. So I sort of can go through, just sort of list maybe like 3 either side celebrities or current racing drivers, or even, as we've seen, ex-racing drivers that you'd want to sort of join the next race. So Ruby, let's start with you.
Well, my first suggestion wouldn't be a Formula 1 driver. It would be I've forgotten what she actually does, but Charlie Martin, currently trying to be, I think, the first woman to drive Le Mans, or something along those lines. But also, I feel like the younger drivers, like, get George Russell in, also get Alex Albon. He's in one of the top 3 teams, and he's young. He should know how to work a PC.
Owain?
Oh, you put me on the spot now. I don't actually know.
We're doing all these podcasts.
Yeah, I know. But wasn't thinking about it before, but I should have done. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to have to pick 3 names out of a hat now. Eddie Jordan, that'd be fun. Not a driver, but that'd be fun. I know,
that would be very interesting.
He must have driven at some point.
I don't know. I know, obviously, he was a team owner for a while, but he probably has done his fair bit of driving in his life.
Yeah. Karen Chandok, he'd be quite good. I think I've seen him and stuff. Oh, I don't know. Who else? Let's say Jamie Chadwick. That'd be quite good.
Yeah, fair enough. Rees?
Just nicked mine there, Owain. Thank you.
Yes.
I think Martin Brundle, that'd be good to see. Chuck Helmut Marko in there, maybe. That would never happen, but I'd watch it.
He'd have to fire himself from his own driver program.
Yeah. Just get all the ex-Red Bull drivers on it as well.
That's an amazing shout.
And Kubica.
Oh, actually, yeah.
I'm gonna go with one that I think you've all missed here. Kimi Räikkönen would be number 1 choice. Love to see what Kimi has to offer on the F1 games. I don't know who else. Probably Max does a lot of sim racing, so it'd be quite interesting to see him and what he can do. Especially if it was like him and Lando racing, so based on other sim racing, that might be quite good. And could I say Bernie? I think watching Bernie would be quite funny.
Does Bernie know how to use any technology made since 1990?
Well, judging on his leadership of Formula 1, probably not.
I mean, you say that. He did actually kind of foresee the F1 TV thing. You could actually buy that back in sort of 2003, 2004 in certain places.
Mm.
It was similar to what we have now, but the technology just wasn't there.
It's not like F1 TV is any good anyway. It's pretty.
Don't know.
Is it even available in the UK yet? Is it been made?
I think Sky still hold the rights.
Yeah, Sky have got a pretty good stranglehold on that currently.
F1 TV in the UK, I think it's $2.99 a month, and obviously you can't watch the races live, but they do put like they've just recently posted race replays of every race in 2019, and you can go on board with each driver for the whole race. There's full team radio for each driver as well. So if that's something that would interest, I think it's quite cool that they're putting that up there.
Especially times like these when people are staying indoors, it's actually quite nice to. I'm glad actually to see a lot of companies doing that. Like Formula One is streaming. They streamed the 2016 Brazilian Grand Prix. I think that's up on their YouTube channel. But yeah, so like I can see that actually having quite a lot of value if you want to go back and watch old seasons and things like that.
Yeah, I saw that. I did watch it because that race was easily one of the best races we've had in the the hybrid era. I don't know. Hopefully that will continue throughout this sort of time where we're all sort of just stuck in limbo, just sort of waiting and waiting for the next race to be postponed. I guess sort of on that line, any races that you guys would want F1 to stream, sort of maybe from the last 20 years. So, Ruby, any particular race that you'd want F1 to put online?
Canada 2011. Maybe not the whole many-hour blockbuster that it was, but it's one of the few races since 2008 that I've actually missed.
Oh no!
Version of it anyway.
If you know, what do you mean you didn't get to sit through 2 hours worth of Martin Brundle and Jonathan Legend? Just
I left it recording, and I assumed that it would still be there when I came back.
Oh, that's unfair. I mean, there are places you can get it.
Yeah, I'm sure there are places you can find it. Owain, any particular race?
I'm gonna say Canada 2010 because that's quite a nice one. You can see the race that informed Pirelli's tyre philosophy, I guess, for the next 10 years. Like that one race shapes the entire way that Pirelli would ask to design their tyres.
Rees, any particular?
I don't know if this is me with nostalgic goggles on, but 2010 Australian Grand Prix, I think it would be pretty good. Or 2014 Grand Prix. Yeah,
that's a great race. Because I don't like Lewis Hamilton particularly, I would want the 2007 Chinese Grand Prix.
You can see when China was actually in a good place in the calendar, and it wasn't really empty at 2 of the grandstands.
To be honest, I would like China to return back to later on in the calendar. I don't think it suits being so early. I think it's a good race for some sort of later season.
Can we swap it with Sochi? Can
we get rid of Sochi?
Yeah, just get rid of it.
We've got enough races coming into the calendar. I don't think Sochi needs to hang about.
If this carries on much longer, we're going to be able to answer the question: are France or Sochi more interesting in a virtual form?
Oh God, France.
What if they are?
I can imagine France. I think most races are going to be more interesting in a virtual form than they are in real life, because you don't have the actual real life application of dirty air and horrendous tyre wear and fuel saving.
I would like to refute that point, like a lot.
Really?
Have you ever tried going through the final chicane at Canada with a car in front of you on Formula 1 2019? That is a recipe for ending up in the wall.
I was literally doing that earlier today. Many replays were done on that one corner.
Just you could go completely Superman on that chicane, and it's absolutely brilliant.
If you've ever hot lapped on it, you'll have had this and next lap invalidated burned into your brain.
Yeah, but luckily, we don't have. Hopefully, it won't be too long until we get this season sort of back underway, and maybe a British Grand Prix or something like that, maybe still in the cards, so we don't have to waste, until like August or September until like Spa or Monza to restart this season. But yeah, I really hope the season does start soon, because I'm bored. I think a lot of the F1. I think a lot.
Have you ever considered esports, Louis?
Still only on once a week though, and even then we've got 2 weeks to wait until the next one, so that's 2 weeks without anything.
You get withdrawals.
I mean, I was going to bring up the marble racing, Rees, but I have a feeling you don't want to talk about that too much.
I've showed everybody I know that now after you became a big fan of it.
It is great.
I appreciate the commitment to going all in with it. I mean, he has like a podium as an opening ceremony. There's yellow flags. It's the whole hog.
I mean, Owain, have you actually seen this yet?
No, and I don't plan to.
Get on it, man.
I'm not watching Marbula 1.
Like,
But it's fantastic.
it is absolutely incredible.
The guy's on a roll.
Oh, God.
Guys, I've only been in self-isolation for one day. I think I'm losing my marbles if we're talking if we're talking about watching Marbula 1 in place of racing.
You know, when there is no racing about, you can always find time for new things, and Marbula 1 could be one of those new things.
Yeah, I think the thing about esports as well, just to mention, the quality of the racing is really good. Like, people leave each other room, and it's not like, maybe it's just because the cars are equal, but the quality of the wheel-to-wheel stuff, I think, is really impressive.
It's like F2 sprint races in a way.
Yeah.
Because I've always enjoyed watching sort of the F2 sprint race, because it's just, you know, 20 odd cars sort of going for it. And it's something that I know some people have asked for in Formula 1, which I don't think would work. But, you know, when you do sort of apply it to Formula 1 and esports, it does seem to work very well.
Yeah, because I joined late. What do you think would work better, the 25% or the 50%? I know they did it because they had to this time, but
in terms of strategy, like implementation, I think the 50% works better, just purely because then, like, if you do go for the alternative strategy, there's time for that to pay off, rather than if you're on the 25%, you know, 5 laps is essentially nothing. But, you know, and 50%, 10 laps can make all the difference.
Yeah, I think 50% definitely does work better in terms of strategy and everything. But sort of the 25 race does have a bit more of an excitement element, because it's, you know, it's people definitely going for it a lot more, because there is that sort of limited amount of laps.
I'm glad they haven't fallen into the trap of going for a 100% race. I think that would actually be. I don't want to make the attention span thing, because I know that that's not the case. Because I watch video, I play video games, and also I'll watch a full Formula 1 race or even Le Mans, you know, where they're very long forms of content. But I don't think esports works for that style of viewing, I don't think. So I'm glad that they've stuck with the sort of shorter end of the spectrum. I think that's a good decision on their part.
Yeah, and I mean, it's free-to-air racing content as well, so you're going to catch some people that will have never watched it before. And 100% is a commitment. Yeah,
it is a bit of a commitment, and especially when, let's say, they were having issues with like the stream, and like the quality of the stream wasn't always brilliant. I don't know how many people could try and put up with that for as long as like 100% race. I think it would still, you know, fit that sort of 50%, 25% race sort of format. So yeah, we managed to get 35 minutes out of talking about a race that technically actually never happened.
just in the form of some mildly inconvenienced electrons. Yeah, no fuel was burnt, no rubber used.
You know, when the F1 said they're going to go completely eco, well, if you go online, it's all the only thing you're burning is electricity.
they've got Formula E beat on the most ecologically responsible sport now.
Yeah, that is true. Anyway, so we'll end it there, shall we? So thank you all for listening. If you want to listen to this, you've got the F1 Chronicle website. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, Omni Studio, and you can follow us on Reddit, and we also have a Patreon if you want to donate any money. If you want to, I've been your host today, Lou Edwards. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.